Hi, this is a continuation of 5.06, The Government is a Referee 1, and we are continuing with slide 17. The Competition Police. It is one thing to pass antitrust laws, but it is quite another to make sure they are enforced. Antitrust laws need government agencies to detect and prosecute companies engaged in unlawfully anti-competitive activities. You can think of these agencies as the Competition Police. In the U.S., the main agencies of the Competition Police are the Bureau of Competition, a wing of the Federal Trade Commission, and the Antitrust Division of the Department of Justice. These two federal antitrust regulating bodies cooperate with each other, as well as with state attorneys, general and foreign antitrust informants agencies such as the European Union's Competition Directorate General and the European Competition Network. The goal of all of these agencies is to prosecute willful violations of antitrust laws. These agencies have authority to file criminal cases that can lead to large fines and jail sentences. They can also file civil actions, often to obtain court orders forbidding future violations of the law and requiring steps to be taken to remedy the anti-competitive violations. Achieving freedom in the free market. The free market system can be an amazing mechanism for generating profits and serving consumers. Sometimes, however, it is necessary for the government to step in to ensure that the free market remains free. Antitrust laws affect the economy by boosting efficiency and encouraging growth that comes from vigorous competition. Antitrust laws also help maintain a competitive free market system, but there are costs associated with providing this benefit. Governments in the U.S. spend billions of dollars each year enforcing antitrust regulations. Taxpayers foot the bill for this enforcement, but they enjoy the benefit of lower prices and non-fraudulent business practices. They also get higher quality goods and greater selection that comes from a competitive marketplace. The free market requires more than just competition to work properly. It also requires that both consumers and producers be able to make free choices. Freedom comes from not having others tell you what to do, but it also comes from having the knowledge and ability needed to make the best choices. You already know that freedom requires protection against fraud, coercion, and theft. Unfortunately, these protections are not automatic. Just as the government protects competition, it also helps protect consumers so that the choices made in the free market are actually free. Consumer risks. Markets are places where buyers and sellers come together to engage in trade. Buyers aim to buy a good or service they need or want. Sellers seek to make sales and receive cash or barter. The arrangement works well if both parties benefit from the exchange. Every exchange involves a certain level of risk. Being a consumer is risky business because there are some businesses that engage in misrepresentation to lure unsuspecting customers. There are also dangerous or poorly made products that make their way onto store shelves. Use the arrows to advance or review the slides. And you can go ahead and do that one on your own. The best protection is good information. Because of all the risks they face, consumers must be vigilant to avoid the many perils of the free market. Most importantly, they need to come to the market armed with good information. Reliable information is one of the best sources of consumer protection. Information helps consumers know what they are buying and from whom. There are many consumer advocacy groups that help protect the interests of consumers by providing reliable information. Consumer Reports, an independent, nonprofit testing and information magazine, is widely considered one of the most reliable and unbiased sources of information on a wide range of products and services. The government is another source of useful and reliable information for consumers. Consumer protection regulations. Consumer advocacy groups can help protect consumers by providing reliable information, but this is not always enough to ensure that consumers' choices are freely made. Many consumers are not very well informed, either because they do not have adequate time nor the necessary resources to get the information. and even the most well-informed consumer is no match for the ingenuity often used to lure unsuspecting consumers. Sometimes more than information is needed to protect free choice. That is why the government steps in to provide consumer protection regulations. Consumer protection regulations attempt to prevent the manufacture and sale of inferior, hazardous, or deceptive products. Product labeling. Some of the most familiar consumer protection regulations involve product labeling. You see the evidence of these regulations on nearly every product package in every store in the United States. Food items must be labeled with nutritional information, electronics must come with warnings, and toys must designate appropriate age ranges for use. Consumer protection regulations extend into many other areas, such as product safety, product liability, truth in advertising, pricing, warranties, service contracts, bill collecting, privacy rights, credit repair, and more. In the U.S., regulations are so far-reaching that nearly every product is affected by some kind of government control. Find out about some of the areas covered by consumer protection regulations. Use the arrows to advance or review the slides. Consumer protection regulators. The maze of consumer protection regulations in market economies is matched by large government bureaucracies that oversee and enforce consumer protection laws. Governments typically have many regulatory agencies to ensure that its consumer protection regulations are obeyed. Agencies enforce compliance with all the laws, standards, and other mandatory regulations, and they encourage adherence to voluntary regulations. The Federal Trade Commission, FTC, regulates advertising and package labeling of consumer products, excluding prescription drugs and medical devices. The Food and Drug Administration, FDA, makes sure that foods, human and veterinary drugs, medical devices, cosmetics, and electronic products that emit radiation are safe. The Consumer Product Safety Commission, CPSC, protects the public from unreasonable risks of serious injury or death from more than 15,000 types of consumer products. The Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, enforces safety rules governing airlines. The Federal Highway Administration, FHWA, ensures that U.S. roads and highways are safe and technologically current. Regulatory compliance. Consumer protection regulations involve many restrictions and requirements to which businesses must adhere. Failure to comply with regulations can keep a business from opening or result in it being shut down. The requirements of regulatory compliance have a major influence on the decisions made by producers. There are many regulations that businesses must abide by to protect consumers, and the laws change frequently. Keeping up with applicable regulations and new rules can take a lot of time and cost a lot of money. Larger companies that can afford it hire specialists to make sure they are in compliance with all regulations. According to the Small Business Administration, the cost for businesses to comply with government regulations in 2008 was $1.75 trillion, more than 10% of the gross domestic product. The costs of consumer protection. Consumer protection regulations are necessary to protect the free choices of consumers in a free market system, but these protections are also expensive. Businesses spend a lot on compliance, but they do not bear these costs alone. Whenever they can, businesses pass along the costs of compliance to consumers in the form of higher prices. So consumers may benefit from government regulations, but they also have to pay part of the cost of this protection as well. Compliance also slows design and manufacturing processes. This is evident in such requirements as the lengthy testing periods pharmaceutical companies must go through to get new drugs approved by the FDA. This leads to less than efficient production. Businesses spend a lot on compliance, but so does the government. In 2012, for example, the Food and Drug Administration, which plays a key role in overseeing drug and food safety in the United States, had a budget of $4.4 billion. That's just one agency among dozens of regulatory agencies. The budgets of the regulators are paid for by taxpayers, the same people who, as consumers, pay the higher prices for goods and services that result from compliance. So, people pay twice for consumer protection regulations, once as consumers and again as taxpayers. The benefits of consumer protection. Consumer protection is costly, but there are some significant benefits as well. Today, there are far fewer deaths, injuries, and incidents of property damage as a result of consumer protection regulations. Example regulations that have helped save lives include the government mandates for both seatbelts and children's car seats. Compliance with government regulations also boosts consumer confidence. If consumers are less wary of making certain purchases because they know their safety and interests are secure, they are more likely to spend freely. The resulting increase in sale drives up production, provides more jobs, and leads to overall economic growth. The verdict on consumer protection. The job of providing comprehensive protection for consumers involves many regulations. It takes a large bureaucracy and a lot of money for governments to accomplish the task of protecting consumers from the hazards of the free market. It also costs businesses a great deal to ensure their compliance with an ever-evolving set of local, state, and federal regulations. Taxpayers and consumers bear most of these costs in the end. However, the results of such regulations are clear. Because of these protections, consumers are safer and more confident in the marketplace. Although you can still be cheated or injured by bad products or services, having the right information and the government at your back can go a long way to protecting your money and your body. Fill in the blanks to see how much you have learned about consumers and consumer protection. So this ends 5.06. The government is a referee 1. The next one that we focus on will be finishing up 5.07. The government is a referee 2. So let me know if you have any questions, and I hope you have a great day.